Hey Rosebuds, it's your girl Nairi Rose, and we are back with another episode. It took a while for me to record this. A lot has been going on in my world, and I'm guessing things have been happening for you. But we're back, we're here, and we're ready to talk. So, without further ado, let's get right into this episode. This episode is entitled The Return of Light, Finding Your Inspiration Again. And with the return of light, it is so essential to know that we talked about our hidden growth, and we've talked about kind of like what we go through in the winter season, and how with flowers and roses, they don't die. You know what I'm saying? They don't die. They just go into a hibernation. And then when they come out of that hibernation, they are transformed. And the importance of finding your inspiration again is to make sure that you don't lose hope, that you don't fall back into old cycles, into old patterns, into old habits. It is so easy to become confused and lost and feel as though you're hopeless in certain situations. For me, January is over. Today is the 1st. I'm going to mark this being Sunday, February 1st, the start of Black History Month. It's the beginning of a newer developing season, but we are still in our winter season, and we need to talk about some things. Now, I am going to do something different in this episode because this is episode 6, and so I wanted to kind of hone in on current events and things that are happening in our country and around the world that might be causing some people fear. It's a lot of fear going around right now. It's a lot of anger that I see happening around me, and a lot of people are afraid to talk, not just in a casual sense, in a social sense. When it comes down to things that matter, we either talk about serious things as though they're a joke, or we don't talk about serious things altogether. And so for the people that are out there right now kind of putting their lives on the line or being affected by what's happening in our politics and just with our world and society and the shifts that are happening, I just want to be so delicate when talking about these things, but people are suffering deeply, and I want to acknowledge that. And I want to say, for everyone who is hurting and suffering right now, I see you, I'm with you, I love you, and this is just to offer some type of support, just because things are changing, but we are still a part of that change. Don't forget it. Don't forget that you are the change that you wish to see. And if you give up now, then it's only going to make things worse. If not around you, definitely within you in your reality. The core symbolism for today's episode is days begin to grow longer and the rose senses subtle warmth. And with that, the days are going to start dragging. And I know that we're due for like daylight savings and them changing time. And if you're aware and if you know, but like the problem is that people don't understand or understand what to do when they're bored. And I'm not saying all people, but a lot of people get uncomfortable with boredom. And if your days are starting to feel longer, if your days are starting to feel like they're draining you, it's time to think about how you can preoccupy your time and space. And a lot of our time and space and energy is being pushed into the machine. And when I say the machine, I mean our 9 to 5, our jobs, people working graveyard shifts, people overexerting themselves in spaces that don't necessarily help their creativity, if that makes sense. And we all have a creative side. As a human, you have the ability to think and dream and manifest and do things that are remarkable. And I don't know why you would sleep on that. I don't know why you would sleep on that ability that you have. And just like myself, because I'm human, this space is my creative baby. But I find myself, because of work and because of the day-to-day hustle and bustle, I find myself in this space of resistance and like resisting wanting to create. And it's come to a point where I'm like, enough is enough. And I have to force myself back into this space of creation. Because let's be honest, like, work can be draining. Your family responsibilities can be hard, difficult, challenging. Like, I don't want to make it sound like it's a negative, because we all are out here doing what we need to do. And there's nothing wrong with having a family. It's nothing wrong with having relationships. It's nothing wrong with that. But you have to learn how to balance everything that you're going through. You have to be able to balance the best of both worlds, being that you have to work or you have to do what you have to do. And I also want to be delicate, and I'm going to mention this later on, but a lot of people aren't working. A lot of people aren't working, and they want to work, and they're applying, and then they're not getting opportunities. The climate is crazy, like in different places in our country. The climate, and outside of this country, actually, I've been seeing a lot of different TikTok compilations about like what's happening in different areas, and it's insane. But with the light returning and you finding your inspiration, I just don't want people to be consumed with the darkness and negativity that's spreading amongst us. Let's just get right into it. The thing that I wanted to do different this video is, because this is episode 6, I want to bring up at least 6 topics that I feel are worth discussing and being open-minded about, and just exploring these topics, just because I feel like I see them in my algorithm and I see how they affect me and trigger me. And so I feel like this is a space of healing. This is a space of awareness and awakening. I'm constantly having these reawakenings and remembering who I am, remembering my identity. Memories are like coming back to me slowly but surely. So that's great for me. That's awesome. But I don't know what's happening to my rosebuds. I don't know what's happening out there. I don't know what your reality looks like. And so I noticed that people are being quiet and people are being silent. And I get it. I totally understand. As someone who talks about disappearing and not wanting to speak, it makes sense. But it also draws concern, just because the whole point is to get us to stop talking. The whole point is to get us to stop communicating with each other and to separate. So the first thing, or the first topic that I want to discuss, is the right to protest, solidarity, and the limits of division. And so I want to start off by saying that I am an educator and I have these conversations with students and young people. And so it's great talking to the youth and getting their perspectives about what's happening in America, how they are being affected by what's happening politically. And so something just to consider and think about: the system has historically pitted us against each other, but we rediscover strength when solidarity becomes intentional. And so a lot of what I'm seeing, most recent, are protests, and specifically when it comes to what's happening with ICE. And so to clarify, I've asked people, ICE, do you know what it means? Do you know what it stands for? And so ICE is an acronym for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And so their job is to make sure that people who are not from this country have the proper clearances and paperworks to be here and to conduct business and to gather an education. And so while we have ICE, which is supposed to be a supportive entity that helps our country, many people look at ICE as a representation of fear, separation, and a system that lacks compassion and accountability. And so, first and foremost, to understand what's happening is to know that we are only getting this information because if it's not happening to us directly, we are seeing it in our communities, and most importantly, we're seeing it on social media. We're seeing it on social media and in our news, and it's at a point where it's triggering, it's jarring, and activism is not easy. It's not for the weak. So when you protest against something, especially a large system, you are putting yourself not only in danger, of course, but you are putting yourself in a position to change the world, change the game. And a lot of people aren't aware of their rights, and so out of fear they can only speculate about what's happening. They can only assume. But if you know your rights, then you know your First Amendment rights gives you the right to protest peacefully, to conduct in peaceful protests, essentially. But of course, pop your stuff and say what you have to say. And so because we have this freedom of speech and assembly, it's creating chaos. It's creating chaos to a point where people are getting hurt, people are getting killed, and we've seen this time and time again. But the message becomes convoluted. The message becomes unclear for the people who don't know what's going on, for the people who don't know what's happening. And we're seeing images of protesters getting abused. It only sparks more fear. And so from my own understanding, my assumption was that ICE is supposed to, or was supposed to, specifically target criminal immigrants who have a history of criminal behavior and are here on illegal premises, not having the proper paperwork or clearances to be in America, and that our government would extradite them. But what I'm trying to say is I thought our government was going to get them up out of here. And so the message is now confusing, or the message has become confusing, because I'm seeing pictures of children. I'm seeing families being separated or taken all together. It's just, it's upsetting. And with this happening, and with the unalivings of Alex Purdy and Renee Good, it's to a point where it's starting to cross over and it feels a bit familiar. And so we have to recognize, how is this familiar? What do you mean by that? And so what I mean is there's a lot of crossovers to the Black Lives Matter movement. And so back during former President Barack Obama's term, so many protests were happening because of the unjust system that we have experienced. And because of our unjust systems, we witnessed African American or Black people being killed and brutalized by police. And so with the anti-ICE movement happening right now, it's almost mirroring creating this shock and awe, showing how peaceful protesters come together in unity, but they face pressures from authorities and just people ready to crash out, ready to fight for what they believe in. But these movements are hurting communities of color. Sorry, I'm just getting emotional. Like, thinking about this. Like, it's not comfortable to think about this. This is hurting us so bad. Like, this is hurting us. And we've been in a place, in a space where communities of color, like, pick and choose when to stand in solidarity. But when it affects our children, when it affects our families, when we notice that we're being separated from each other, when we're being harmed, unalived, for having a voice, it's a problem. And then when you have a problem, I'm sorry, but the number one thing people love to do is point the finger and figure out who to blame. And so if we can't go after the bigger beast, the bigger entity, the stronger force that's hurting us, then sometimes it seems like we turn our backs on each other, or we turn on each other. And I'm seeing a lot of division between the communities of color, being that if you're Black American, or if you're Latino, or just, someone who identifies as a Spanish-speaking immigrant here in America. It's a lot going on, but why are we so divided? I don't want to give out answers. I want you to just think and reflect on, like, what's really happening. And people are choosing silence, not so much because they don't know what to say, but again, it has to do with fear, and it also has to do with feeling as though I can't help you because you haven't helped me. And when it comes to the problems that we faced in our society, there's been a lot of division amongst Blacks, Hispanics, Asians, even South Asian ethnicities. It's just a lot. It's a lot that's been happening. And sometimes I feel unqualified to talk about these things. Sometimes I feel like I'm not smart enough to talk about certain things. I feel like people challenge and check me a lot in real life about what I know. And truth be told, I'm still learning, but I know what I see. And I want to handle things delicately because I wasn't out on the front lines during Black Lives Matter. I wasn't. And so for the people who were hurt, I see you and I understand your pain. And as far as what's going on now, I see it. I see it across the street. I hear it. People are being told to come out with their hands up. Attendance rates in schools are dropping. People or kids are scared for their friends. Families are disappearing from our communities. And because we lack context and specifics, it's hard to pick a side when you know you need to, when you know that picking a side is not just for them, but it's also for us, But I feel like a lot of people of color are just tired in general. Like, it's only so much fighting we can do. And a lot of people may feel like, why fight at the risk of losing my family or losing myself? And so that's just one topic that I wanted to talk about, just because I know that it's affecting our community. I know it's affecting families. I would never want to see someone's family get broken apart due to politics or the system. And so while most people want for ICE to help keep us safe, we also have to evaluate if those measures are in fact appropriate. And so just moving on to my second point and topic, I also want to talk about the economy in Black America right now. And I've talked about this a little bit in an earlier episode where I talked about how a lot of people are homeless right now and losing their jobs. And so I just want to talk about the State of the Dream 2026 report, which showed that by the end of 2025, Black unemployment has risen or had risen to 7.5%. And specifically, Black youth unemployment saw dramatic spikes in instability, meaning we're not getting jobs, we can't keep a job, and it's becoming hard because jobs are cutting people off, especially in federal employment positions. And then you have a bunch of overqualified people working in underqualified positions. So when I say that, you might have someone who has a master's degree working in the retail industry or fast food industry just because they have bills to pay and they need to put food in their bellies and their families' bellies. And so what's happening in our country is the cause of the heightened of fear and the heightened anger that we see amongst people, our everyday people. It's not that people don't want to work anymore, if you understand what I'm saying. People do want to work, but I think Black women and men collectively are being affected the most just because, again, if you're overqualified and you have somebody telling you what to do in a position to where you know I'm overqualified and I'm already doing my job, but you have eyes on you, you have people watching you, you have people bullying, harassing you in the workplace, it's so easy to push you out, especially Black people. I feel like people play a lot of games with Black people, and sometimes we have to work on our emotions. We have to work on how we show up. We have to work on our impulsivities so that we don't always feel attacked. It's hard to say that because I myself experience so much, inside of work and outside of work. But enough is enough, and people are just tired. Every day I'm hearing like, oh, how's your day? I'm tired. And if the kids are saying they're tired, like, we know it's a problem. It's becoming to where what is tradition anymore? People aren't following through with traditional upbringings and practices and cultural beliefs and values. All of that is being misconstrued with this new noise, this new pressure, these new rules that are being put into place, seen and unseen. And there are things to come that we need to talk about and discuss. And so collectively, we have an economic resilience to move forward, push through. I know that back in the day, it was cool, for me, this is my personal experience, but it was cool, not for my parents probably, to have the lights turned off. But there were times where back in the day, we had the lights go off and we would light candles and we would play board games in the dark. We've had times where, yes, we don't have the groceries in the fridge and it's not fully stocked, but we'll make do with our canned tuna and our ramen noodles or whatever it is that we need to get through. And I still see that, we kind of uphold that and we still are kind of stocking up. And if you haven't already, stock up on canned goods, stock up on water. It's not gonna do you wrong to have a little bit of extra, but just don't overdo it, because we've seen it before with the shutdown where people go into a panic and they go to the grocery stores and buy up everything in the grocery stores. And a lot of individuals are saying, are we going to go back to that? Are we going to have another quarantine? Are we being affected in that way? Because people are getting sick, and I'll talk about healthcare later, but we're just all kind of like holding our breaths, trying to see like what's happening, what's going to happen. And so we've stopped talking about things like gentrification and how the old is being replaced with the new. But honestly, like, you look around and nothing looks the same. Everything's changing. Your favorite food spots don't exist no more. I'm from the Bay Area. I miss Mexicali rolls. I think about that place all the time, but it's not there anymore. And so when your community starts shifting, I'm starting to hear about a lot of people saying that their childhood homes are catching on fire. And we heard about the fire that happened in LA, and all those people who were displaced and lost their homes. Those things, those tragedies, they don't go anywhere. So we have to think about, what do we do moving forward? Also with our economy, I've been seeing a lot about the illusion economy and the rise of luxury as livelihood scammers. And we've seen a huge increase of people marketing social groups and clubs and being a boss or being this, to have like community, but it's keeping us broke.
I'm gonna forever say, remember that social media is an illusion. Like, people get up here and flex, talk about people who work a 9 to 5 and stuff like that, but whole time behind the scenes be struggling financially.
Most of the rich girls that you obsessed over aren't even rich. They're in luxury poverty, faking the high life while getting paid for your own delusion. Influencers get rich and you get the debts.
It's keeping us broke. It's keeping us down. Trying to create an aesthetic. When I was heavily on social media, I drove myself crazy trying to create an aesthetic, and I felt like my stuff was just everywhere and all over the place because I couldn't figure out how to fit in an aesthetic. Like, when you're a creative person, you are supposed to just keep creating. And so when you tailor your creation to a specific look or design, it just becomes very like black and white, or just gray in general. And I see a lot of lifestyle coaches and motivational speakers with no real credentials or pay to access private groups. People crying about how they've been scammed with fake real estate, crypto. I can show you how to drop ship. Just all of that friendship packaged as networking type situations. It's scamming in the worst way, especially because you are giving people a sense of false hope. These people are investing into your business thinking that they're going to grow with you, or we're going to help other people grow with us. And then when they run off with your money, they drop you, say you're no longer part of this club, this sisterhood, this brotherhood. It's all for monetization. And then you're exploiting the escape struggle. Like, it's exhausting, because is there a real true escape? When you think that faking a luxurious lifestyle will create one for you in the long run, like, I'm still confused on the end goal of these people and what they think this will do for them. But it just gives pyramid scheme. And so I say that because we can't keep falling into the lifestyle of the rich and famous and the keeping up with the Joneses. When you are a honest working human being, you're already living paycheck to paycheck. You have to be able to choose stability over being a spectacle. A lady once told me a long time ago, be careful going out with your friends. Be careful when they record you. Be careful how you show up in these spaces, especially if you're drinking or smoking, because you never know how these friend groups or these people will use that against you. And so now I just feel like, while I want to like build community and find that tribe, I'm cool. I can wait on it. I can let it come to me naturally versus selling access as proximity to something, because you don't have to sit at anyone's table but your own, and you don't have to be around people that don't make you feel good, and that's facts. And so with this, I just say all this to say, when it comes to our economy, and our black dollar, or just the dollar in general, it's changing. Everyone's talking about digital currency, but so many small businesses had to close down, had to close shop, and that's disheartening. But they can't take your creativity away. They can't take your abilities away. So maybe it's time to go back to the drawing board, go back to your vision board, and just start kind of reframing or realigning how you can use your creativity to maybe barter or start trading, or have those backup plans or those side hustle plans that are based in integrity, so that we can be okay and sustain ourselves. Because I've always said that I'm a camper, not a glamper. So if we got to pull out that tent, we gonna know what to do. But the question is, do you know what to do? Do you know how to live and sustain yourself? Because it's not always about chasing the bag. Granted, yes, we need money and we need food and we need things to sustain us and keep us alive. But if you had nothing, and a lot of us have nothing right now. A lot of us, don't have a savings right now, or a lump sum of money just waiting to take us to the next level. When you have nothing, what are you going to do? And so that brings me to my third point, which is politics, voting, and why people of color feel disillusioned. There is a lot of talk about politics and voting and voter suppression, and just our vote matters and we need to be out there. But I want to say, from my own experience, a lot of people don't vote because they don't know who or what to vote for. When you talk about props and legislation and all that, some people have no idea what they're voting for. And then you have the people who don't have any idea going out to vote, and then you have the people who have no idea not voting. And so it's like, shame on them, shame on you for not voting. But I think we need to have more conversations about politics feeling like conflict, and people choosing to not have a say so because people don't want to get it wrong. People don't want to feel like they made a mistake, or they did something that they weren't supposed to do, or because of the current state of the world, people are punishing themselves and saying, because I didn't say anything, this is why this is happening. And none of that is necessarily true. What you do need to do is educate yourself. If you want to be a part of the change, then you have to know that it takes research, and you have to research these things, because everybody's not going to tell you. Everybody's not going to give you the blueprint. And so most recently in current events, something that I saw is celebrity culture causing more division within these spaces of politics and race and all of the things that harm us mentally, physically, economically, globally. Because a long time ago I said that people come to our country to practice racism, and I still feel that to be true. And so most recent I saw this disagreement between Nicki Minaj and Don Lemon, and regardless of how you feel about Nicki Minaj being an artist in music and Don Lemon being a journalist, and his credentials run deep. Like, I've seen Don Lemon for a long time, respect his work, and just kind of, he gave me inspiration, a lot of inspiration when I was younger, a teenager, and I wanted to be an activist, but I wasn't sure. And so seeing these two individuals who I believe identify as black people. I just see, again, black men and women being pit against each other through media. And instead of being celebrated or understood as complex human beings with respect to their talents and how they choose to create, because Nicki Minaj, whatever she's saying and doing, that's her business, and whatever benefit she's doing it for, again, that's her business. Don Lemon, whatever he did in the name of journalism, that's his business. But what's being put in our faces, Nicki Minaj, first of all, telling Don Lemon a lot of disparaging things, but most what sticks out into my mind is her saying, lock that thug up. And then surely after what happens, Don Lemon gets locked up. And so I think of the power of the tongue, and I just think of how sad this is becoming, because Don Lemon was hit with a federal charge, and he claims to have had pure intent. He was just doing his job. He was just doing harsh journalism. But I guess where he messed up was going into church, or going into a church, which is protected. Churches are protected institutions. And so because I guess it's alleged that the pastor works for ICE or is an agent, an ICE agent, you have to just know that, damned if you do, damned if you don't. And so I see people picking sides, and people love to pick sides, but do you know why you're picking the side that you're on? Do you know why these people are being put in our face, and I want to say puppeteered even, to further confuse us and cause chaos? And so that's something that we also need to think about, just because it sucks. It sucks. And I'll just say, why does it suck for me? Because I'm going to be so honest. I went to a Nicki Minaj concert. I had the time of my life. I had fun. And now I'm looking at this, young lady, or I'm looking at this woman that I've kind of grown up listening to her music. And when someone of that caliber goes into politics, not only does she get crucified, but then the people who have had any dealings with the artist, they get crucified too. And then it pushes our backs against the wall to want to be silent. And I really can't say that I know what Onika's intentions are, or like if she's fighting for her family, if she's fighting to not be deported to Trinidad and Tobago, where she's from. I don't know the motives behind all this. I don't know if there's checks being cut behind the scenes. But when I tell you that this is not for us to get wrapped around these individuals, this is for us to get wrapped around in each other and talk and have these conversations with each other, so that we can come to a better understanding of why these things are occurring, and why does a hip-hop star and a media personality not what I just didn't like when she said arrest that thug. I didn't like that. I really didn't like that. Just because we do have rights in place, we do have our amendments in place, and I don't know, it's just loud. And so it's easy to get pulled into a fight that's really, it's your fight, but them may not be your people to help you with the fight, if that makes sense. And so that brings me to my fourth point, which is the mental health and education system and the invisible struggle. And this is where I talk about our youth and our youth of color. and how they're being affected, because what matters most are families and children. And even my mug, it says goal today, keep the tiny humans alive. Shout out to who got me this cup. I'm pretty sure it was an educator. But our children's mental health is being affected. Like, if you didn't know, not just because a lot of people or a lot of parents are putting tablets in their child's faces, not really communicating, kind of like perpetuating the children should be seen and not heard phrase, but there's so much systemic bias and societal messages that contribute to our kids' stress, anxiety, and burnout, especially among Black youth. And I just want to be clear, when I say Black, that encompasses Black and brown. Like, I'm tired of the separation of us as people based on colorism. And I want to have a whole conversation about colorism and how it affects the Latin communities, how it affects Black communities, how it affects all communities, because there's spectrums in color, just as there are spectrums in light and mental health and everything else. And so it seems as though when our youth fall short, we're easy to offer them medication, but not enough community-based support. I'd rather see commercials about community-based support and outreach programs than I do the GLP-1 shot. Like, I don't want to see that anymore. I want to actually see things that can help us grow. And when it comes to, like, even college right now, even despite our challenges, these students, these young people, they want to change the game. They are eager. They are ready. They are leading the growth in college applications right now. And it shows that they are resilient and aspirational. And I love that for our people. I love that they are being unapologetic about how they want to enter into these spaces, especially in these difficult times. And we're not holding back. And so, even though, or although we have all of these Black youth applying to these colleges, these elite institutions are showing a decline in Black presence. And that says a lot. Like, we have so many kids applying to these schools that they want to make the change in, and then now that we've gotten rid of affirmative action and all these other things, it's kind of just like they're still not being accepted. So, like, are we done with racism, or are we not done? Are we done with the systemic prejudices and biases that we face in this country, or are we just getting started? Like, is this a cycle being repeated? What do we need to do to, like, keep pushing? And another thing that's happening is there are a lot of educators that are not of color. There is such a lack of Black educators, especially Black men, because they are severely underrepresented in educational institutions, and they only make up 2%, roughly 2% of the workforce. That does not seem okay to me. And so I know that from experience and talking to other Black men, some Black men feel like there's been a target placed on their backs where they can't say anything, they can't do anything. They feel a heavy sense of emasculation from, if not their partners, from other women, other people. And it's sad because it's like you can't say anything anymore. You can't do anything. If you look a certain way, then you might get labeled a certain thing. And something that's coming to my mind, I remember that there was a Black man who was going viral because he had let some students of his, some Black girls, do his hair or take his hair down. And if he didn't resign, I think he was fired from his job. He cried about it. He was emotional about it. And I'm going to be so real with you. I would say about a month or two later, I saw a video of a white educator. And he had Black girls in his hair. He was wearing a wig. He was like, it was a funny video, but the outrage was not there. And so, seeing that from my perspective, I see how targets are placed on certain demographics of people, and then people choose silence because no one wants to be exposed along with the troublemaker. If you're seen or deemed as trouble, who's going to really be there for you if they don't want to get in trouble themselves? And so, that's the problem that Black people are having, is just feeling like, for centuries we've had to carry these stereotypes and these beliefs or projections of other people's beliefs about who we are, what we are, and our purpose. But when it comes to standing in solidarity, we're not strong in numbers like we need to be. And so it's just things to think about. And again, if you are a Black male educator, salute to you. And all my Black women holding it down in the education system, shout out to you too, because it's hard. And we're always seen as like the nurturers, but not the saviors, which is crazy. But we're supposed to like fix everything. But we're not being, we're not getting the real and true accolades that would make us feel appreciated in the educational workspace. So I see you, I salute you, and I know that this is something that can't be changed overnight, but still it needs to be talked about and addressed. And so I just want to make sure I'm on task. So my fifth point is the healthcare system, empathy and system accountability. Something I saw recently in the news is that 31,000 Kaiser Permanente healthcare workers went on strike, including nurses and therapists, pointing to systemic stress in healthcare systems. You don't even need to go any further we don't need to go any further, because I know that the healthcare system is not easy. I know that patient care, especially the patients who have to come in and out of the ER room, it gets overwhelming, it's stressful. Healthcare workers work, I don't even know how healthcare workers work the number of hours that they do, but healthcare workers work the most number of hours and the most shifts that I've ever seen. Like, I don't even know how y'all do it, because I'm like, when do you sleep? When do you sleep? Where? How? Like, I've seen like, shows where they show like, healthcare doctors sleeping in locker rooms and stuff like that. But I know that people work hard. And so it's hard when you face problems in your workplace and it leads you to want to strike. All you're doing is asking for support. You're asking for acknowledgement. And if you don't get that support and acknowledgement, it's defeating. It makes you not want to show up anymore. And so I can't say to these people, what about the patients? Because I get it. You're advocating for your wages and staffing, but collectively, it doesn't feel right. And it goes back to our economy and our job market right now. Why am I going into a store seeing that there are 15 lanes available, but only one or two of those lanes are open? Why are we not hiring people to do the jobs that they used to do? Back when I worked in retail, every single lane or cash register was employed with someone. People were on the floor. We had support. People would call off, but we would have backup in place. Like, it just seemed like the job market used to be booming, whereas now you go to the store and you're harassed at self-checkout. And I get it, you have people who are using the system, but you guys provided the system to us. What did you expect? And so, personal healthcare experience, I know that there's mistreatment of people in these spaces. I know that I've experienced racism in the healthcare system, especially having children. When I had my first child, I was threatened with CPS, and I had to fight. I had to silently fight because I had just had a baby. I was in a state of vulnerability, and then I had someone telling me what they were going to do if I challenged them with questions, or if my family challenged them with questions that were just to help me as a first-time mom. When I had my second child, my healthcare professional or doctor basically referred to me as a baby mama and alluded to me having children out of wedlock without asking me anything. And that was just kind of like shocking. It was kind of just like, oh, so this is like, do you guys like, are y'all paid to trigger your patients? Or is this just a lack of awareness? Is this just from a place of ignorance? And so in general, I learned about this in school and college about pain tolerance and how women of color are frequently not believed about pain, contributing to unmet needs and mistrust. If a black woman tells you they're in pain, believe them. Even if they seem strong, even if they seem like they're managing. If someone tells you that they are in pain, but it doesn't seem like it, believe them. Sometimes as people of color, we might say that our pain is at a 5 when really it's at an 8, and we just don't want to say 8. We don't want to make it seem like it's overbearing. Some people, I know myself, when I'm in pain, I just get quiet. I don't say anything at all. I'm just really quiet. I keep myself calm because I don't want to amplify my pain. And so it just breaks my heart to see that our voices are not being heard after all of this time. It's been so much time, and we've talked about these things, and we keep talking about these things, but it's like, what's being done? More people are getting hurt, more people are getting unalived, and it's affecting us. It's creating chaos amongst us. People are becoming dangerous. I was in the grocery store the other day, and I saw a woman following me. And so I said, well, there's no way that she's going to go to the bakery section, because I'm going to the bakery section. She's been following me all through this store. Like, maybe if I pit maneuver over here, I'll break away from this magnetic connection that we're sharing. So lo and behold, I'm walking to the bakery, and she starts like pushing her cart faster. And so it comes to a point where we almost T-bone, and she almost hits me with her cart. And so I asked her, I said, are you going to hit me? And she said, almost. And it was the way she said it. It was like, oh, wow, like you don't have any shame. And then she followed with, well, I've been watching you since the parking lot. And I must have ran out that store. I'm telling you, I had called somebody so fast. I called somebody, got on the phone, and I said, you know what, I'm out of here. Because how bold of you to tell me that not only are you about to assault me, but you've been watching me since I've walked into this place. That's crazy. Like, what type of time are you on? And I've been noticing that in general, people are becoming scary in the sense that they're very monitoring. I see people doing a lot of playing games, just habitual line stepping, playing just dangerous games out of fear, maybe, out of wanting to like see some action. And just simply sometimes people do these crazy things out of boredom. And so you have to just find your creative spaces when you are bored, because there's no way that you should be driving and you're bored. And so you're going out into the world, you're going shopping, and you're bored. That means you have no intention. You have no purpose. You're just going out and then waiting for something to happen. And I don't think that that's necessarily right. And so that brings me to my last talking point, which is the power of awareness and forward motion. And so with the power of awareness, you must choose awareness, connection, and compassionate action every single day. And that's so hard. It's so hard. But when I say choose awareness and connection, we're already cold. Like, we're so cold to each other. But instead of being cold, you can just, I don't know, ask somebody how their day was, without wanting to share your own. Like, not asking someone in a manipulative way, but like asking someone genuinely, like, how was your day? Or how are you feeling right now? There's a lot of polar opinions and disharmony happening in media. And so, what are you going to do to make sure that what you're watching or what your feed is showing you does not consume you? Recently, on public platform, I saw a commentator and comedian, Anton Daniels and Corey Holcomb, engage in chaos on their show. Well, it was Corey Holcomb's show. And they engaged in complete chaos, for optics, causing division and distracting people deeper from the truth. And that's just my opinion.
Put the microphone right down. Yo. Right now. I'm going up. Hey, I don't give a f*** about this shit.
Homie, you just running your mouth.
I'm not running my mouth.
You running your mouth. I don't do
you
no
do it for the
shit.
internet. You doing it for the internet. Now, if you want to say your time. No, hold on. If you want to
I'll
say
show you I ain't doing it for the internet.
A lot of hurtful things were said where a beautiful conversation could have been held, because sometimes I think that Anton, he makes certain points that have to deal with tradition, and I don't necessarily agree with all of his points, but I do think that he is someone who has knowledge to a certain extent. And I did, at a certain point in time, I watched a lot of his content. Corey Holcomb, I didn't really watch so much of his content because sometimes it just gave, like, your uncle who just has a lot of opinions and has a lot to say, and it's the delivery, not necessarily the message. It's just the delivery, because it's more vulgar than I'm used to hearing. It's more direct, it's sharp, it's cut, and I just try not to listen to that so much. But I'm not saying that he's not telling the truth. I just said it's his delivery, and some people are more sensitive, me being one of those people, more sensitive than others. But them coming together, they could have had an awesome conversation about politics and what's happening in Black culture, but it didn't go that way. And so with that and the division that it's caused, because now with Corey, his drama's coming out and he's being publicized as a villain, and Anton, who I'm not sure if he thought he was going to benefit from this moment, but now he's being dragged publicly. And so where we have two Black men that could have created a change, or we were waiting for something, we waited and saw that, we got to do better. We just have to do better. I don't even know what better looks like right now, but it's return to creation and collaboration. And so with the lesson of just all of this, returning back to this being our winter healing series, light returns slowly, just like creativity and hope. And so there has been a call for us collective creatives to keep going and keep creating so that we can continue building our community and at least bridging a gap between cross-racial solidarity instead of division. How long are we going to be divided? It just seems like within the community of color, it's like everybody knows this secret, but nobody wants to say the secret. And then it's kind of like Black people feel like, we're known as being hospitable, uplifting, and I'm not saying all Black people are like this, but I'm just saying, like, it's in our DNA just to be loving and to be I don't know, because we already carry, so much projection. And we already carry so much negativity associated with our Blackness. A lot of us strive to have integrity and to be good people and to have this shared empathy and purpose. But when you have people on the spectrum of light, kind of use certain privileges to their advantage, it harms all of us. It harms all of us collectively. And I'm being delicate right now just because I do want to have that conversation about colorism and how it affects our communities and how non-people of color, they observe us just as we observe them. And the problem is, wow, everybody has issues. Everyone has family drama. We have to kind of assess, why is the white dollar or the white wealth tripling and our dollars are crumbling like we have nothing. We must sit with that, because returning to light is not succumbing to the darkness all around. And with all of these topics and all of these things that were being shown, all of the pitting against each other, and not even just Nikki and Dawn, there's a beef brewing back up with Nikki and Cardi. And how is this affecting our young women? How is this affecting our young boys? How are our kids navigating what they see and what they're exposed to on social media into their real lives? How is that affecting their friend groups, their relationships, their career choices? We have to find our inspiration again. It's just sad that we're living in these like critical times and people are choosing bad behavior. Not all people, but a lot of people are choosing bad behavior, and they're choosing to be sneaky and manipulative and to step on others in order for this gain. And then to say that you're doing it for you, but it is coming from a colonial positioning, like it's contradictory. It's contradictory to watch, people of color destroy other people of color and then ask those same people for support or a helping hand. But if you find that somebody is asking you for help, think really deeply about your next steps before you're quick to cut somebody off or turn your back on them. Make sure that it's worth it. Make sure that you're not going to regret it. Make sure that it's for the greater good, because saying no is a form of love. Saying I can't stand with you, or I can't do this with you, or I can't talk about this certain thing is a form of love. Telling someone, hey, you're not on point right now, or you're being unprofessional, or you're making me uncomfortable is a sign of love. That's love. And so how a person treats you after you give them that love speaks volumes. But if a person decides to continue with the bad behavior, then now the choice is yours. And when it comes to inspiration, it's a muscle. We build it by understanding the world critically, honestly, and lovingly. And so when you are feeling inspired, do not think that because the bills are piling up, because the fridge seems a little empty, because your debts are lingering, that you're not worthy or deserving of abundance. Like, that's not the point of your existence. The point of your existence is to recognize all of the positive things and the negative things that are happening, and then figure out what you're going to do with those things happening. What are you going to create for yourself, for your family? Because in that, you have to be able to center yourself and be in balance, even when you're bored, even when you're tired, even when you're in a space of lack of faith. So I just say all these things and I bring up these topics because they're important, they're happening, they're now, they're frightening, but you should not be afraid. You should not be scared to continue moving forward. And so I want you to just think about, how can you transform your creativity into power and peace? Not so much thinking about how much money can I make from my creativity, but how can my creativity be a beacon of light to others? How can I not join the bandwagon of what everyone else is dealing with and facing, but how can I be supportive, understanding, empathetic, but also create something for myself based on my own values? And so some questions you can consider, what inspires you right now? What small action can you take that reflects your values rather than fear? Do it scared. Anytime you feel afraid, that's okay, but push through that fear and still do it anyway, because I'm pushing through this. At the beginning of this, I barely wanted to talk, and now I'm starting to find my flow and my voice, and that's part of my reawakening. And also think about when the world feels loud, unstable, and confusing, how can your creativity become the place that you return to, not to escape reality, but to stay steady within yourself? That's a great question. How can you remain grounded amongst the noise and the instability and the confusion? And so that brings me to the end of this episode. And of course, I want to close out with scripture. And the scripture that I want to close out with is how the Lord is my light and my salvation. Psalms 27, verse 1. And you have to know that despite what's going on around you, there is perfect peace within you. And that the salvation of the Most High preserves you from harm. Along with that, although this isn't our scripture, I'm always saying and repeating to myself, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. And you should be saying the same to yourself, because the Lord is your light and salvation. What harm can come to you, especially if you are peacefully protesting and you're peacefully making change in your space and environment? So many people are hurting and suffering, but the choice is yours. You can be pulled into the darkness, or you can rise above, because remember, that rose is not dead. It's not withering. It's still growing. It's still coming to, and your days are going to seem longer, right? They might seem longer as the sun returns back to us, but we're not done yet. We're not done. This is not the end of anything. This is only the beginning of what is to come. So I say all that to say thank you for spending time in the Rose Garden, where healing isn't loud. It's layered, gentle, and personal. I'll meet you in the last episode of our Winter Healing series as we continue growing through this season. And I just want to say that I'm so appreciative of those who are watching this and who can resonate with where I'm coming from, because I'm not trying to put a target on my back or anyone else's back. I'm just asking you to think, to challenge yourself to think and expand your thinking, and to be open-minded that, yes, we're going through stuff, but you're not the only one going through things. And you have to also consider the damage that has been done to us collectively as a society, as a culture, all of the damage and the hurt and the harm that's been, again, puppeteered through these celebrities and these political figures to have us back in a state of chaos, confusion, and fear. So I say all that to say, just let's be prayerful, keep the faith. Please keep the faith. And make sure that you check out the episode notes for this episode on heyrosebuds.com. This week's weekly rose care practices and more will be featured on our newsletter. Something that I want to leave you with is the affirmation for today's episode. I welcome the light returning to me little by little. So your light is returning to you, even in the midst of this cold weather. Don't forget that there's more to you than just working for the man. And if you are going to work, at least figure out how maybe you could work for yourself. And that's all centering back to being creative and finding your inspiration again. I love you all so much, and I thank you for joining me in this space. Always remember, when life gives you thorns, search for roses. Peace.